Hey guys, Claire here, and in today's video, we're going to talk about all things Harry and Meghan. Chef Jose of World Central Kitchen praises his friends Harry and Meghan for visiting LA fire victims. According to Chef Jose, Harry and Meghan show up when it matters, regardless of the cameras or criticism. He says probably you feel like it's better that nobody does anything because nobody criticizes you for showing up. But the amazing thing is that they do show up. That aligns with what Harry and Meghan have always said. Show up and do good. And for the people who had an issue with Harry and Meghan opening up their homes to those who are displaced by the wildfires, providing donations as well as volunteering, are completely quiet on the king riding to a food bank in Scotland from his helicopter to and fro, essentially empty-handed. Charles is a billionaire. If he really wanted to make an impact on the people who use food banks, he can give a sizable donation to actually make a difference, but he chooses not to. But we don't hear any noise from the peanut gallery, now do we? Just as William, who loves to take photos with homeless folk. If he really cared, he could make a significant difference in homelessness in the UK. He has the resources and the means to do so, but he chooses not to. It's just performative PR. And again, no noise from the peanut gallery, not the press or the royal fans on social media. Hypocrisy, as usual.
What's this? Oh, you really know King Charles cares about the environment and poor people when he helicopters into a food bank and community centre that helps people struggling with the cost of living crisis. Is there anything more ridiculous, out of touch, and quite honestly downright offensive than the King of England, a billionaire, dropping in for a few minutes to talk to volunteers at a food bank before getting in his helicopter and flying back to one of his homes where he'll be served quality food that he's neither had to shop for nor cook? He turned up in traditional Scottish dress, like it's a pantomime, which it kind of is really, and then asked one of the plebs whether serving cake was her speciality. I hope he didn't 100% adhere to the Scottish dress tradition, because that wouldn't have been very hygienic.
Also, I can't be the only one who wasn't surprised to see Kate popping out the day before Meghan's show was slated to be released. You'd think that dealing with precancerous cells and treatments and a grueling 2024 would stop Kensington Palace from playing these silly games. As soon as the news of the date, the 15th, was released, I figured someone from Kensington Palace would pop up the day before, because that's what they always do. Sort of reminds me of the Flyby incident. And yeah, I wasn't wrong.
Hold on, let me get this straight. So you're telling me that the day before With Love Meghan was originally scheduled to drop on Netflix, Kate Middleton, who rarely makes public appearances, decides to pop on out for an unscheduled surprise visit? Girl, is that Getty Images? There were cameras. Kate was visiting London's Royal Marsden Hospital, where she underwent cancer treatment in her first solo public appearance in over a year. During this quote-unquote unannounced visit, she also announced that she is going to become the patron saint of this hospital alongside Prince William. But then I remembered I read reports that King Charles would regularly visit Kate while they were both getting treatment at the same location. But then it was reported that King Charles was receiving treatment at the University College Hospital, not the Marsden London Hospital. So I don't know if it was maybe different treatments or they're just not keeping their stories straight. I don't know what's going on here. Mind you, the same individuals who have been slating the Duchess of Sussex, Meghan, and Prince Harry over their visiting of the LA fires and anonymously helping out for the past couple of days are now singing a very different tune when it comes to Princess Catherine doing literally the exact same thing. Some may say even worse because she was not anonymous about it at all. Where we need to look at how media and trolls online are biased towards certain individuals and attack others. I wonder why that is.
Now, some of you have asked me about the most recent Vanity Fair piece on Harry and Meghan. I have not read it. I have no intention of reading it. I'm not surprised. From what I've heard, it's essentially a rehash of things or negative headlines about Harry and Meghan. Am I surprised? No, only because I and so many others, we all sort of anticipated that there will be a lot of retaliatory and negative stories about Harry and Meghan, since Harry is currently embattled with that lawsuit with the Murdoch empire.
I've just seen the interview with Prince Harry where he's been talking about why he's still pursuing the Murdoch press for accountability over phone hacking and indeed their lies. And it really strikes me how courageous he's being, because he has been vilified in the press on a daily basis. His wife has been vilified on a daily basis. They've left the royal family, so they're not sponging off us. They're not getting anything from us. They're doing this off their own, out of their own pockets now. And I think that's really courageous. And I just wish our own government would actually confront the media with what they're doing. The skewed news reports. And I think there's a lot to be admired about Prince Harry, because right now he is the only person standing up to the British press. And I think that's something quite admirable. Anyway, as you were.
I understand why Harry and Meghan are suing the press. Vanity Fair, you're doing a good job at exemplifying everything that Harry and Meghan are fighting against in the UK. The article starts off reasonably well, talking about Harry and Meghan and the legal issues that Harry is fighting in the UK, some of his wins and some of his losses. It then quickly devolves into the Spotify deal. It speaks specifically about a time when Harry goes to Spotify to talk about the forthcoming podcasts. Harry asks for a cup of hot cocoa. The Vanity Fair journalist makes it seem like Harry must have asked for hot cocoa from Hershey Park, because all of them had to go scrambling to get the Duke of Sussex a cup of hot cocoa, as if though they could not Uber eat it from Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts. When they arrived with the hot cocoa, the executives at Spotify wanted Harry to sit down and drink hot cocoa and interview his celebrity friends. When Harry said he wanted to be more aware of the content he put out, the executives at Spotify weren't especially happy. Realizing that Harry and Meghan do not have an NDA with the royal family, they wanted a further deep dive into what it was like to be in the royal family. When Harry declined, they began to pitch him other ideas. And the main theme is that both Harry and Meghan want to be very involved in the projects that they put out, and they don't want to continue to just put out anything that's watered down or that they don't believe in. About a year and a half later came Archetypes, a year after they signed the Spotify deal. There was a specific episode that spoke about trans women, where initially she had used the B word. But she said, you know what, I put out a children's book. I need to be aware of the words that I use, especially in public, especially with the media, so I'm not going to use the B word. And she watered it down. The executives at Spotify were clutching their pearls and upset that Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, would not use the B word. A woman who wrote a children's book would not put out a podcast with the B word, and they were upset. And that is when the article came out about them being grifters. They say the podcast, which was award-winning, had to have assistance from Harpo Studios. The person that produced it from Harpo Studios did not participate in the article. According to several unnamed sources, there was an opportunity for marketing from Spotify, but they didn't let Meghan know, and they released part of Archetypes without letting Meghan know. She didn't even know they had a finished product. So she became cold and distant to some of her employees. At least one of these employees thought that signing on to work for Archwell Productions, which would be just like A24 or Sony, was going to be like entering the family. So when they weren't treated like a member of the family, they felt like they had been misled. These two people have survived death threats, no security, living in literal strangers' homes. Why would you sign an employment contract thinking like you're going to be a godfather to their children or have pajama sleepovers? Even though it was so horrible, Meghan used to write handwritten thank you notes to everyone who worked on their projects. Archetypes later came out. It was released. It won awards. There is one source at Spotify that says it came in over budget. There's one that says that's not true. Vanity Fair fails, does not tell us which one is true. You and I, as the reader, are just left up to our own ideas as to which one is true. Because Vanity Fair says we spoke to one employee at Spotify that says it came in over budget and they needed assistance, and one that says it came in on time and on budget. This employee that sat down for an anonymous interview says that Harry is truly one of the kindest people that they ever met, and that they are concerned that he's too kind because it's not real, that he must have chafed knees from getting down and literally speaking to children, speaking to the disabled, and somehow that can't be real. And while Harry might sit at home all day and looking over his charities and playing polo, Meghan wants to be a businesswoman and wants to wake up and get things going at like 4:35 a.m. And sort of, that's not how she should be. She's a bully for expecting people to be in at work at 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, and for them to not host like employee barbecues. That should tell you everything about this article.
Now, there's this article from the Daily Mail entitled, "Edward and Sophie were Harry and Meghan of their day, but after their private careers became a well-publicized disaster, they rejoined the family and knuckled down to turn the public's view of them around. Could the Sussexes now follow their lead?" And this has been part of the problem. The thing with Harry and Meghan, to me, feels sort of like an onion. There's so many layers to the press hounding, to the hatred from royal fans, to the obsession with the media. They represent so many different things that triggers people. They really hope that they can reel Harry back into the fold because they know that they need him. William needs him. The monarchy needs him. And they know that that's never going to happen without Meghan and the children. So they're secretly hoping and actively trying to sabotage every single project that the Sussexes do, even in the face of those insurmountable attacks from the mainstream media, the tabloid, the trolls online, the bots. Every project continues to be successful. There was somebody talking about, Meghan's video, the trailer on Netflix has so many dislikes. The same thing happened for Harry and Meghan's documentary. And to this day, it's one of Netflix's most viewed documentaries. The same thing happened with Harry's book. I mean, it was a storm of insanity surrounded the release of that book. They were running to translate it and giving you just the most horrible hot takes. And Harry's book broke Guinness World Records regardless. So it's frustrating for them. Also frustrating that Harry not only left and is successful, but he's holding them to task with all of these lawsuits. And they're secretly hoping that Harry and Meghan become a disaster, a failure like Edward and Sophie, so that they can come back into the fold. Well, Harry, and think about it. Just about every high-profile person from that family remains in the fold, remains dependent on the monarch. And this is the life that they've always wanted for Harry and whomever he married. So imagine their surprise, disappointment, rage-inducing fury that try as hard as they might for the past 5 years. Nothing seems to be fruitful in their ultimate desire in getting Harry back into the fold.
You bring up a good point, but everybody wanted Harry on their terms. The only person who didn't have a right to their own life, who was able to have a right to their own life, is Harry. You know, I can understand Harry's role up into the point that he was a spare. And I could see Harry holding on after the second baby. But after baby Louis was born, then Harry had no obligation to any of them. And candidly, he would have been like the other brother, right? So you have Charles, you have Andrew, and there's the other one, and Edward. Harry should have been like Edward, where he's just minding his own business, doing it along. But ultimately, everybody, more importantly, the British media, have taken it upon themselves to try and determine Harry's life. And you know what? Kudos to Harry to saying hell to the no. I am my own man. I have my own identity. I am my own brand. I pay my own bills. I buy my own shoes. I will never be soulless again.
Answering this question, what happens if the scapegoat leaves the family? This is a question on a previous video about how the scapegoat role can prop up families by being an easy target for unresolved issues. So, when the scapegoat leaves, there's 3 common things that can happen. 1, the family chooses another scapegoat. This is often another sibling or the non-dominant caregiver. The family structure stays intact by maintaining the status quo, which in this case is always having a person to blame. 2, the family continues to blame the scapegoat even from afar. The remaining family members continue to mythologize that the scapegoat was always the problem, and them leaving is just another sign of that truth. The scapegoat just couldn't keep it together, and we're the normal ones. Of course, this is not true. Many scapegoats deep down already know all this. They sense that their family system is fragile, and if they leave, things might fall apart. Sometimes the scapegoats continue to take the blame because it keeps the status quo going, and they feel they're the only ones strong enough to take on this job. The key here is that scapegoats are not responsible for keeping families together, just like children are not responsible for preventing their parents' divorce. These patterns started long before the scapegoat ever arrived.
Now, there was this young lady who shared her story about her history and interactions with Meghan long before she married into the royal family. And one of the key things that I found interesting in what she said was this, and quote, "If people didn't know her before Harry, they only knew the hurting and hidden version of her. I had the chance to know her when she was free. And luckily, now she's free again."
I would love to do a story time. This is the story of the time that I met Meghan Markle, and she came down from the interview stage in the middle of the interview to give me a handwritten letter and a box of macaroons. So the backstory of it all is that I've been one of her biggest fans since I was 13, when I watched Suits in like 2012. And then I found her social media and immediately became obsessed with her and like blew up her comments all the time because I was a teen with no restrictions on social media. Instead of being super creeped out, Meghan saw that she had this like young girl looking up to her and treated me with kindness. So she started interacting with me on social media and kept interacting with me on social media for all the way up until Harry happened. So in 2016, when I was 16, she had an interview in New York City at AOL Build, and I basically forced my mom to take me. I lived just a couple hours away from the city. Yeah, I told her it was coming, and she told me she would be so excited to meet me. And then it happened. So the most common reaction that I get when I tell this story is people are like, "Why were you so obsessed with her?" And to me, I'm like, of course I was. But if people didn't know her before Harry, like, they only know the like hurting and hidden version of her. And I had the chance to know her when she was free to be who she was, and who she was kind. Like, she was just a kind, thoughtful, present, genuine, generous human being. I also wasn't the only one that had this relationship with her. There's a small group of us that she used to interact with really regularly. And the thing about that is, like, she saw that she had this group of young people looking up to her, and she recognized that as an opportunity to empower us and to, like, be a mentor. And also that so many of us were teenagers and, like, inherently sad and struggling, and she made us feel seen. And then she started her blog, and, like, she knew that we were reading it. And so she didn't take that responsibility lightly to teach us so much. And, like, so much of who I am today is because of things that, like, were earth-shattering to me when I read them on the TIG. Because they were messages about independence and about helping others and just, like, being full of love for both yourself and others. And, like, that's who I strive to be today and have always been. And in no small part, it's because I read it on the TIG. Like, I have a vivid memory of being in my room and reading the TIG, and I read the words, "You are enough," and I just like stared at my computer and bawled my eyes out because I had never thought that before about myself as a teenager. And then I read it, and she told me it, and I was like, "Oh." And like, that didn't mean nothing, you know? And she knew we were reading. So yeah, that's who she is. And I'd be happy to share things from the TIG that I still remember today, if anyone is even still watching this video now. But also, if you're curious, just go look at my recent TikToks because I've been posting a lot recently, and some of that is there also. And as someone who's been around since day one, back when she didn't have that many followers, even before the blog began, what she's gone through in the past few years is not small. And who she is now, I like get emotional over it because like she's healing and she's finally realizing that like no matter what, there's gonna be people that don't understand her, and the fact that she's now sharing herself with us in things like the show and her social media is like a very healed version of her, and I'm so excited to see what that brings.
Stop the world because I think I want to get off. We have it on good authority from the Daily Mail that Kate, William and the children were away for a late Christmas, early New Year skiing holiday in the Alps. And as ever, these are old pictures because even though they went on a skiing holiday, nobody thought to take pictures. That's right, the Daily Mail has confirmed that the taxpayer-funded non-working royal family and their massive security entourage were paid for by us to have a lovely little break. Good on them. I actually think this is probably true. I don't think William was there. I think it was Kate and the kids. I am horrifically sorry for all the families in the UK facing a cost of living crisis that are genuinely going through a cancer battle. The cancer survivor and their immediate family in this world we live in now must be under huge emotional and financial strain. But Kate doesn't have to work. She didn't do anything throughout December knowing she was going to go on holiday. She's done very little in January. Now she's back from holiday. It's a completely different lifestyle of privilege, unlimited resources and unlimited money. And it's wrong in 2024. That's all I'm going to say. Comments are open as ever, guys. Let me know what you think.
Oh, I'm going to tell you exactly why Meghan Markle gets so much hate and vitriol. And it's really simple. It is solely because the most eligible bachelor, the golden goose, the most coveted white man in the world, chose a black woman first. And they hate losing. Oh, and that's the ultimate L. They will forever have to take that one on the chin because he ain't giving her up. And they hate that Prince Harry didn't choose the European standard he grew up with.
Meghan is making these fires all about her. Oh my God, that's awful. We know, right? And you lost everything? Your whole neighborhood's gone. Excuse us, we are trying to talk to you. If you need anything, even if it's just dinner, you know, spouse has all those steaks in the fridge. Hey, we're trying to talk to you. I'm sorry, I have to go. Apparently, there's something more important. About time. What? Meghan is making this fire all about her. How? Well, for starters, her house almost burned down. Montecito isn't near any of the fires. Exactly, so it didn't. Are you rooting for the fire? Only in this one instance. Can't even say I'm disappointed. And she delays her Netflix show. Yeah, that just seems like good business. So she can hand out food to the victims of the fire? She was using them as a PR opportunity. What? How do you think those cameras got there so fast? You mean the local news? To people who have been covering the fire 24/7 for over a week? and just dropped everything to go cover a couple of minor celebrities handing out food. So people knew where to get the food. It doesn't matter because she's just doing it for attention. Why else would she go out there with a mask and a baseball cap and sunglasses, almost completely covering her face, and then positioning herself half hidden behind these victims that she's comforting? And how many articles about this did you write? If our house had just burned down, dude, we think it would have made a lot of people feel better. Sure would make me feel better if someone burned down. You and your city seem to have a lot going on right now, so we're good.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, hit that notification bell.